Alright, well, I promised a video, so I guess I have no choice but to make a video. Um, the subject I want to talk about is humus. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I love chickpeas. That's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about has one M. You're thinking, oh, soil maybe? No. I'm not talking about soil. I'm talking about one specific kind of soil. Humus can be thought of as a triangle with an extra leg. A three-dimensional representation of a triangle. And the reason I put it that way is because there are four positions in the whole humus formula. Water, carbon sources, cat, what are you doing? Sorry, Dixie is trying to get into the video. Water, carbon sources, minerals, and the back leg of the pyramid would be humates. Now, why do I want to talk about humus? Well, the reasons are many and varied. The subject of humus, the conversation to be had around humus, take up a whole series of videos, and I'm not exaggerating. For the last 100 years or so, agriculture in the United States, in the world for that matter, because we lead the way, has been playing a game of lesser and lesser returns. The methods of agriculture are doing so much more damage than they do good. People have this idea that the farming methods we use are necessary because we have too many people to feed, when in fact the farming methods that we're using are ensuring that we have less and less ability to feed all those people as time goes on. The world is down to, believe this figure, it's scary, 10% of the humus that it once had to support a fully functioning environment of biodiversity. 10% of the world's humus is what remains. The rest has literally been washed away with NPK farming and exposed to the ultraviolet light of the sun by tearing down all the trees, and the resulting environmental conditions from those two horrendous acts cause further devastation to the humus layer on the planet. We're literally down to 10% of the only substance we have on the planet that's capable of supporting a world full of people. More about humus. I wrote down some facts, trying to make sure that I put out a cohesive video to make the points that I needed to make, but there's just entirely too many. There's just too much to talk about. I will focus specifically on the benefits to the cannabis grower of growing in humus. And on a larger scale, that will directly correlate to every other farming usage. Now, one of the primary things that has to be considered, one of the first things that jumps to the top of the head when you talk about humus is the fact that it is hands down the best system the world has ever seen for locking atmospheric carbon into the soil where it belongs. Atmospheric carbon, we will get back to this later as it regards to fungi, but atmospheric carbon is now our major problem. All the carbon from the soils, people automatically assume when you talk about global warming and you talk about atmospheric carbon, they think about their car. They think about driving around. They think about mills that put out tons of smoke. They think of coal power plants. What they're not thinking about is the farmer driving by their house in the field next door who's literally spraying a substance that oxidizes humus and kills it. Nitrogen is poison to humus. Nitrogen wipes humus out faster than anything else, plus it then leaches through into the water table and makes its way to the oceans, poisoning everything on its way. Now, obviously, such methods are completely out of touch with the world. When you get right down to the name humus, it at its root it means the same. It means the same thing as human, and it also means the same thing as humility. Now, both of those bear some contemplation when one thinks of humus. Humus does so much. It stores the water that rains out of the sky. That's one of the ways that it collects carbon. It stores water in such a way that it's readily available for all vegetative life that's extracting nutrients from it. It keeps its own weight. Humus can hold its own weight in water and extend it until it's used or slowly evaporates out. That's very important for today. The desertification of the world is horrendous, and whole countries are drying up, and people are moving to other countries because the humus layer is gone and desertification has set in, and there's basically no hope for them unless they restore a humus layer. It'll turn to desert, and it's happening in countries all around the world. The moisture retention is one benefit, and we'll get into more benefits as we talk about other legs of the three-dimensional pyramid. Moving to another leg of the pyramid from water is carbon. And carbon is all the sources of organic matter that fall and decompose, under a normal, set of circumstances. Everything that hits the forest floor turns into carbon as the worms and the microbes and everything eat it. It all goes back to its original organic carbon molecules. In addition to that, fungi play a part, which we'll get to. Carbon. When we speak of carbon in the soil, when we speak of organic matter, you automatically think of the trend that's going around lately in circles for biochar. And what's important to remember about biochar is that biochar is made into biochar so you can take advantage of its structure. Biochar is like an environment for the microbes and the bacteria and everything in the soil. It's a last refuge. It's placing mine bunkers. It's placing nuclear fallout shelters all throughout your soil, so that if the worst comes to worst, if you have a monsoon and a metric ton of water is pumped through your soil in 2 days, the biochar is there, and all the microbes and bacteria are partying up on the inside of the biochar, and they don't even know there's a flood. So that as they get drunk and wander home, they come out of the biochar and repopulate the soil. There's where biochar has its most value, because it's such a slow release as a carbon. It's not really, an additive for the soil. It's a last refuge for, all the microbes and bacteria and such in the soil. That said, we can move on to minerals. Now, it should be plain. In 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, every single one of you watching took a class that taught you about how soils are created. Now, you're going to doubt me as to when that class was taught to you, and you'll go back and you'll find out that I was right. Basic soil formation, they start you out in like 3rd grade in American schools, and they teach you that every single thing on this planet, is eroded rock. And it's true. Volcanism was the cause, or not the cause, but was, the condition of our planet. until, weathering and biologic activity started and everything started breaking down. We're in an advanced place today where we have, very advanced organic, forms of, carbon, and rock takes, millions of different forms. And the idea is that minerals, the very rock which is the foundation of the earth, form the basis for the entire system. In the system, we're so far removed from natural systems that we forget in the natural world that it's dog eat dog. The best survive, the quickest, the fastest, the most suited to a task are the ones who survive. And starting all the way from the smallest moving objects that appear to have life, they feed, they're fed upon, all the way up to levels that we can observe with the eye. And we have to keep that in mind, that it's dog eat dog all the way till, a rock, till you're caught between a rock and a hole in the ground. That has to be in the background of your mind the entire time you're thinking about humus. And at this point, we should mention humates. Well, no, actually, I'm going to leave humates for a minute. Something that I want to talk about that is inextricably bound to humus are mycelium, mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae fungus are found all over the world. A specific species has been recognized that produces, the glomus species of mycorrhizae have been found to produce glomalin. And glomalin is a very important substance. It's produced by the fungi as a byproduct of its association with a plant. Now, a lot of people don't know exactly how mycorrhizae work, so let me explain it to you. Mycorrhizae, as the spores hatch and mycorrhizae starts growing, it encounters the root of your plant. It grows. It likes to grow with plants. It encounters the root of your plant. It encases it. It punctures it and plugs itself into the root of the plant. Then it starts growing like a maniac, spreading out throughout the humus and actually connecting with the mycelium that are growing on the mycorrhizae, growing from mycorrhizae on other plants nearby. It all forms an interconnected web. The fungi starts producing, or as a result of all its bodily processes, it produces glomalin. Now, the glomalin is a sticky substance that helps stabilize the hypha of the mycorrhizae. The hypha are the thin fibrous roots that the mycorrhizae shoot out. The hypha produce glomalin, and the glomalin is absorbed into the humus itself. It's such a very complicated process. I can only grossly understate the process that's happening. Over decades of plants growing in a soil and dying, the glomalin stays in the soil. The plants are recycled for their base nutrients. The glomalin stays in the soil and continues to be usable. The glomalin gives the humus a stability. It helps in the water retention. It helps the hypha are a cell thick, and the glomalin allows such delicate structures to hold up as they spread out in literally a mat around the plant. And you add humates to that mix, and the humates are like adding an entire toolbox for the fungi, for the bacteria, for the microbes, and for the plant. The humates are a great big toolbox that you just gave everything to start making biochemicals, combining biochemicals. The humates are like they remain, that's like a whole bunch of organic compounds that are just like hanging in suspension for various microbes, fungi in the plant to extract pieces, parts that they need to build the biochemicals that they want, out of genetic instruction. Some of the things that plants get, they acquire through this network of hypha from the fungi, and they literally transport biochemicals through this fungal network to your plant. And when it's connected to other plants in the neighborhood, you're getting biochemicals that result from the processes of that plant. If you doubt me, think about the Indians' three sisters: corns, beans, and gourds. Um, just as one example of those three, the corn is a nitrogen hog. The way it grows and the manipulation that it's had genetically, it'll draw more nitrogen than it is possibly available in the soil. You grow beans next to it, and in the fungal network, there's an exchange of nitrogen as a byproduct of the corn doing its thing, or of the beans doing its thing. So it's just unnatural. You plant the corn with the beans, and everybody's happier because everybody's getting what they want. And it's due to the fungal network of mycorrhizae transporting all these humates around, and everything being readily bioavailable in a medium that perfectly restricts the moisture content to exactly what the plants need, to exactly what the bacteria need, exactly what the fungi need. It's a magic kingdom under the ground that you can't see. And that's what's so effective about gardening based upon humus. Humus has so many organisms. A functioning, living section of humus has microscopic organisms that haven't been identified yet. There's, and they've been there since the earth was created, getting better and better and narrowing themselves down for specific purposes. Think of the range of time we're talking about. Is man in his laboratories going to come up with every single chemical that's created, biochemical created by every single one of those organisms? No. It's not possible that man could create a nutrient system that will take the plants that we want to grow to their genetic idea of perfection. It's just not going to happen. Humus can do that. It's not an exaggerated claim. When we think about distracted myself by reading my notes. I knew I wasn't going to stick to them. Anyway, now I've completely lost track of where I was. Alright, water, carbons, minerals, humates. From the four, you tune your soil. Now me, I learned, basically I might as well say I learned from Subcool, because my super soil recipe leans so heavily on his that I can't even make a claim for it myself. I start with a super soil recipe and I create a base soil, at which point I inoculate it. There are specific products on the market made by specific people, certain collections of humates and certain collections of organisms that you can buy in liquid form that you can do fine to start out with to get a living portion of soil growing. There's mycorrhizae available. Make sure you get something with the Glomus species in it, and you can populate a section of soil with the mycorrhizae you need. The important thing in my mind is, of course you can start growing right now, using humus. You can start off with a patch, you're using super soil, so there's going to be an overabundance of stuff for your plants to use. You can start right out. But by additionally focus on building humus, your beds need never run out of nutrition. You know, the value of humus, once it's created, a pound of it has basically the same nutritional content as 100,000 pounds of compost. And now you're thinking, that sounds ridiculous. How could that possibly be? But it's due to the environment of humus. It's what I explained to you about humates and fungi and minerals and water and how they all interact with the whole chain of little bugs eating bigger bugs, eating bigger bugs, eating bigger bugs, all the way throughout the system. What I didn't mention was a lot of those bugs live an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. That's the span of their lifetime. So an additional source of carbon in your soil is all those dead bug bodies. And specific things eat those. So if there's a hole anywhere in the chain, you're going to have specific issues. Now, lately, there's been a lot of the same problems going around on the cannabis grow tube on YouTube. And I would like to point something out. Certain species of mycorrhizae create little fungal lassos as part of what they do during their lifetime. In the open spaces between particles of humus will hang these little fungal lassos made out of fine hairs. A springtail or a bad nematode tries to go through that hoop, closes up on them. Certain species of fungi literally trap the enemies in your soil. They die, they become a carbon source. How do you add the trillions and trillions of dead bacteria bodies to soil as an additive? You know, there are biochemicals locked within those insect bodies. They've been feeding on one thing, providing another thing their entire life, and when they die, there are specific compounds trapped within them. And the only way to get them released is to have the thing that naturally eats those dead bodies eat it and give off those chemicals as part of the process. That's working throughout the whole structure. Humus is the only, true example of the living food web. It is the living food web. Everything needs to be in proportion in humus to call it humus, and the better structured your humus is, the better plants will grow. Once you get a firm understanding of how to encourage humus to grow, which is not hard. I told you, like I said, there used to be, the world was 100% covered. Everywhere there was land, there was basically humus. And that was a natural process of time. There are ways to speed it up. I mean, we can do that much, but we can't create something completely different that mimics humus. There's just no possible way. The number of biochemicals produced are uncountable. We're just not in a position to mimic that. I was going somewhere, but I don't know where. I think I've basically said enough. I think I've basically given people enough to think about, enough to start researching, enough to start understanding that they've been tricked into a mindset where, something's wrong, I need to go back to that shelf to get something to fix it. When the fact of the matter is, the internet, is where you go to fix things. That's where knowledge resides nowadays. Everything I know, I learned on somebody else's Wi-Fi on the internet in the woods somewhere. Reading, what are you doing, Dixie? Reading the papers that, college kids put free on LexisNexis, even knowing they're not soil scientists yet, you've got keywords there for any kind of search you want to do. If it seems like somebody's on to something, do your own research. This is a wide open field. All these organisms in soil have not been identified yet. The connections, that are being made in humus are not understood yet. There is plenty of room for people to learn. But it's also, I figured it out. Anybody can figure it out. Once you get a handle on it and put down the I gotta go to the shelf mindset, nature provides examples. Nature provides everything. And one thing that I always encourage is start a compost pile. Start 2 compost piles, 3 compost piles if you have dead things that you want to dispose of. Because don't put those in your compost pile, please. Anyway, 1 compost pile for a bacterial-based compost with all the microorganisms doing their thing and breeding. Stop putting so doggone much stuff on the top of your pots. I know in nature, things fall on the soil. However, we can do better than that. We can compost it all. We don't have to leave that, that stuff. We don't have to leave that kind of thing for worms. I'm going to explain why there's a better option in a second. All right. If I quit completely losing my train of thought, I would. Anyway, cover crops. Cover crops are the alternative to putting, leaves on top of your pot. There's biochemical exchanges going on amongst the plants you plant, in your pot once they plug into the fungal network and everybody starts partying in the pot. But besides the bacterial-based compost, start a leaf mold compost pile and put both of these in places where there might actually be the last vestiges of humus in your yard, wherever looks to be the most likely spot. If there's a place, a clump of trees where every year a few leaves fall, make that your leaf mold compost pile. And when you do feel the need to mulch on top of your pots, to keep the ultraviolet light out, make it with compost and leaf mold. And make sure, after you get to know the environment of your pot and how your plants react, make sure you've always got cover crops coming up. You've always got things living in the pot with your plants. So, I think that pretty well covers it. And any questions that I get, any conversations that I get, I could further clarify. I know I promised the Dizzy Grower at Pedro's Grow Room a useful system to grow and diagnose problems with pests. And this might not seem like I've done that until you start exercising some of the knowledge that you'll gain when you start researching all this. Dizzy, I've been watching you starting your seeds and everything, and I'm a person who's very excited about all these women growers who are coming up on the tube. I think women have an intuitive ability to care for plants. I think women are better at guessing what's about to happen than men are. And, once you know a little bit about it, predicting what's going to happen in your pots or being able to predict that nothing will happen in your pots, I think you'll come to understand that I have given that with this knowledge about humus. All you got to do is start looking into it, understanding it, and start building it in your yard. I know you have animals. You get humus growing in the grass that your animals eat every day. Certain mycorrhizae actually produce antibiotics that carry through to the plants that are attached to the mycorrhizae. The grass that your animals eat could be supplying an antibiotic to them. I mean, all of this is stuff that we're losing. All the scraps, your garden, anything that you feed to your animals You know, the very ground that your animals walk on, if it was humus, they would be reaping the benefit. And like I said, the benefit is they could produce an antibiotic effect. Animals that eat off the ground will actually eat humus. And if you go to the your feed store and look through the catalog, you will find out that they sell humus as a feed in some places. The basic components of humus. So you specifically, Dizzy, I wanted to. You're the reason I posted on your video that I would make a video, to force myself to do it, because I think you and Pedro really stand a lot to gain from embracing this knowledge about humus. Either way, your decision. It just you guys occurred to me, and Joshua Steensland, Brown Guy 420, you know, Loyal to the Soil. These are people that I bothered with my knowledge because I see the benefit for them, and I just want to make sure that somebody has told them there's another way. And Brown Guy, he knows. I have no idea what's going on. I thought I was with him. I thought I understood where he was going, and then he went to Korea. I gotta wait to see how that's going to play out. I just don't know. Anyway, here's my video. I hope you found it helpful. I know I rambled. I didn't stick to my notes. If I was unclear about any specific thing, you want more detail, ask me. I will try to explain, and if I have to, I'll make another video. Alright? Later, y'all.